Hey! With the year more than half over, we here at Rogue Auteurs wanted to run down our 5 favorite movies of the year so far. So let's dive right in. Okay, first is my favorite movie that no one has ever heard of, and it is Slight, which is out right now on DVD and Blu-ray from writer-director J.D. Dillard. Slight is the story of a street magician who has to deal drugs in order to care for his younger sister. Doesn't seem necessarily like a wonderful concept for a movie, but with great performances by Jacob Latimore and Seychelle Gabriel, and a terrifying turn by Dule Hill, the movie manages to take what ends up being a comic booky premise and make it something very interesting and clever by keeping the relationships front and center.
What I have found to be the most provocative movie so far this year is Raw. Raw is essentially a horror film about cannibalism. It's about a girl who goes off to college as a vegetarian and tries meat there for the first time, and some pretty crazy consequences ensue. This is not a movie for the faint of heart. There are definitely some pretty gory sequences, but the movie uses that gore to ask some pretty interesting questions about morality and the lines of right and wrong, and when you start to lose yourself and your passions. I call it a horror movie, but I wouldn't go in expecting to be scared. Rather, what makes the movie so excellent is its incredible sense of style with cinematography and a unique score that give the film a completely unique atmosphere.
So, one of my favorite movies of the summer was It Comes at Night. I feel like this movie was mislabeled, misrepresented as a scary movie, horror, slasher movie. It does have some intense scenes in it, but I would recommend it to people that are kind of on the verge of the thriller, scary movie scene. It has a really strong story. It's beautifully shot, and there are some elements that I feel like really draw you in. Joel Edgerton is a strong actor in it, and I feel like its plot, its story, it's developed so that it really pulls you in and gets you to think about some different concepts rather than just a scary movie like it was really marketed.
Sup. My favorite screenplay thus far this year is the screenplay for The Big Sick, which is a movie that is currently in theaters. The script is by real-life husband and wife Kumail Nanjiani and Emily Gordon. Nanjiani plays himself in the movie, and the script that they wrote is decidedly a romantic comedy. However, it subverts a lot of the normal cliches of the rom-com and manages to feel very real and yet still be hysterical. If you go to rogueauteurs.com, you can read my full print review, but for now, if you have a chance to see The Big Sick, go find it.
My favorite movie so far this year from new talent is The Big Sick. I put new in quotations because Kumail Nanjiani is a familiar face to me and has been for several years now. But I'm really happy that with The Big Sick, he's been given the chance to tell his own story and to write the script and star in the movie. He does a fantastic job with each of those things, and the movie is engaging and heartwarming and very funny as well. And I hope that he's given lots of great opportunities in the future because of this.
Also in my favorite movies, The Big Sick, I felt like my expectations for the movie may have been a little higher. I didn't love it quite as much as I thought I would, but it was super strong, very impressive script. I know Kumail from his series on HBO, Silicon Valley, which I thought was amazing, but he really shows off his talent as he really carries a lot of the movie.
My favorite superhero movie or comic book movie so far this year is James Mangold's Logan. In a year with Wonder Woman, very well received, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Logan actually stands out as my favorite of that genre. With a haunting performance from Hugh Jackman, a brilliant performance from Patrick Stewart, and enough R-rated content to make up for all the older PG-13 versions of Wolverine, Logan is the perfect elegiac capper to the Wolverine story. I know that when I left the theater, I felt like this was the type of story that used to be outside of the superhero genre, and James Mangold and his team, and of course Hugh Jackman, found a way to bring some of these bittersweet emotions to this comic book film.
The most fun that I've had seeing a movie in theaters so far this year was with Baby Driver. Edgar Wright is one of my favorite directors, and this movie is him at his absolute peak. When I call the movie fun, I don't mean that as a condescending insult or anything like that. The movie's just a pure blast from start to finish, with the way that it uses music in its action sequences, and has an array of quirky and interesting characters. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I had Baby Driver in my top 5 of the summer. The way Edgar Wright used sound and music, the soundtrack for the film is incredible. I've had that on all summer. And just the way the story is woven together using that sound was incredible to me. I'm not familiar with a lot of Wright's work, but for me it was just a fun, non-stop, entertaining movie the whole time. I felt like it was just unique and was just what you want from a summer movie.
The most surprising movie to me so far this year was Get Out. I call it surprising because it came from Jordan Peele, who I only knew as a comedy writer and occasional guest star in certain sitcoms or comedy movies. The idea of Peele writing and directing a horror movie sounded completely foreign and, to be frank, a little bit ridiculous to me at first. But I was blown away when I saw Get Out by the way it used its premise to explore interesting things about race and make provocative points that kept the movie interesting, but also filled it with scary scenes, fascinating performances, and crazy twists as well.
Okay, another of my favorites of the summer was Dunkirk. Christopher Nolan, the war movie. I thought it was fantastic the way sound was used and portrayed throughout the film. The intense nature of war was highlighted from several different perspectives. I felt like with little dialogue, there was just meaningful content from each character.
My favorite genre film so far this year is Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk, which is in theaters right now. It is decidedly a war film and not a genre that I normally like very much, to be honest. For me, Interstellar had been a small bit of a step down for Christopher Nolan, and so to see him return to form was really gratifying. Here, Nolan and his cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema really create a claustrophobic atmosphere. They really try to get you in the head of these characters whose only instinct is to survive. With the help of an either intrusive or perfect score from Hans Zimmer, they highlight the ticking clock intensity of war. And every performance in the film knows that it is part of a larger ensemble. Everyone is great, but no one sticks out, and I mean that in a good way.
My number one favorite movie of the year so far is Dunkirk. I also tend to avoid war movies as a genre because the certain cliches and the ways they tend to play out usually don't interest me. But Christopher Nolan made war movies interesting to me again through Dunkirk. Every technical aspect of this movie is incredible to me. The decision to focus on stories of survival as opposed to combat was the perfect choice for me, and for others to the point that some have likened Dunkirk to a horror movie. It's an incredible story of determination to survive, and it's artfully executed, and I believe that everyone should see it.
My favorite movie so far this year is Jordan Peele's Get Out, which is ostensibly a horror movie, but is really so much more than that. It's hilarious, it's also scary, but it's a biting and incisive commentary on racism and stereotyping in America. Jordan Peele is married to a white woman in real life, Chelsea Peretti. He has taken his experiences as a black man in America and also as one half of an interracial couple and funneled them into this creative, clever horror comedy. Being Jordan Peele's directing debut and being so assured, I am so excited to see what he does next as a writer and a director.
My favorite movie has been A Ghost Story. I recently saw it, and it is a super unique story. It's very ambitious, and the director, you can tell that he loves cinema and that he's passionate about what he does. This isn't a huge blockbuster, but it's something that was refreshingly different for me. And it is something that, as I watched it days later, I was still thinking about it and how I connected to the film. It is not a scary movie, even though it's titled A Ghost Story. There are some scary, eerie elements, but it is a drama. It is a relationship movie that is ambitious enough to take on elements of time and loss, remorse, some really intimate elements to try to write about and try to create a movie about. And again, as I said earlier, just a good piece of cinematic artwork.
Thank you for staying with us as we counted down our 5 favorite films. Please comment below and tell us if you agree or disagree with some of those. You can find reviews on our site of Dunkirk and Get Out, and also Logan, and The Big Sick. And if you go to Chad Durham's SoundCloud account, you can listen to our podcast where we talk about Baby Driver and also rank the movies of Edgar Wright. Hey!